We are writing equations of lines. So we have a couple different options when writing equations of lines. So we can use the slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And we can use this, well, in order to use this form, we need to first start by finding the slope. Remember, our slope equation is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Once we found the slope, we can find the y-intercept. We can do this by choosing a point and use the slope of the x or y values to substitute into y equals mx plus b. Then we can solve for b from there. Finally, rewrite the equation with both the slope and y-intercept that we just found. The second way to do this is by using point-slope form. So using point-slope form, we will use the point-slope equation. This equation comes from the slope formula. Then we will find slope from this equation. We will use a point, x1 and y1, and the slope to substitute into this equation. Once we've done that, we do need to solve for slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So let's see how each of these examples would work. So an example problem would be write an equation of a line that passes through the following point. So using slope-intercept form, we're going to first find the slope. M equals x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So I've got m equals y2, which is negative 2, minus y1, which is 2. Oops, got a note up. We will delete that. Okay. Over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 6. Now, going ahead and simplifying, negative 2 minus 2 would be negative 4, over 3 minus 6, which is negative 3. Since I have double negatives, I can simplify that as 4/3 as my slope. Okay, now we're going to go back to our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, but now instead of having m, we are going to substitute in our slope. Y equals 4/3 x plus b. The last thing we need to solve for is b. We can do that by taking one of our points, substituting that into the equation, and solving for b. So let's do that. I'm going to take my first order pair, so I'll substitute 2 in for y, and 6 in for x. And we're solving for b. So 4/3 times 6 would be 24 over 3, which is 8. So that gives me 2 equals 8 plus b. Subtract 8 from both sides, and that's going to give me b equals negative 6. Okay, now that I have my slope and I have my y-intercept, I'm going to take my slope-intercept form and substitute those in. So I've got y equals 4/3 x minus 6. And that's my final answer. Okay, obviously we can do this using point-slope form as well. So for point-slope form, we would once again calculate slope first. Well, we already did that in the first example, so we'll just steal it from there. But now, instead of calculating using our slope-intercept form, we can calculate using point-slope form. So remember, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I'll plug in x1 and y1. So I've got y minus 2 equals 4/3 x minus 6. Okay, I'm going to start by distributing my 4/3. So I've got y minus 2 equals 4/3 x minus 8. Now to solve for y, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So y equals 4/3 x minus 6. Remember, only combine your like terms. Okay, so it's really up to you which of these two methods you would use. They are fairly equivalent as far as the amount of work goes. Okay, let's go through a couple of examples on the back here, and we can pick which method we are going to use for each. Okay, in number 1, there's something that you should probably notice. In my ordered pair, since my x value is 0, that actually means that that is my y-intercept. Okay, so since that's my y-intercept, I can go ahead and just use my slope-intercept form right away, because I've got m and I've got b. So that's going to give me y equals 1/5 x plus 5. And for this one, it's that easy. That's my final answer. Okay, let's continue down the left side. For 3, I have both my x-intercept and my y-intercept. Okay, the easiest way to do this one would be to first calculate your slope. So I've got x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So I've got m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Negative 5 minus 0 is negative 5. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Any number over itself just gives you 1. So in this case, similar to the last example, I have my y-intercept. So I know that b equals negative 5. And I just calculated my slope. So I'm going to go ahead and use my slope-intercept form. And that's going to give me y equals 1x minus 5. But since we have a coefficient of 1 on our variable, we could rewrite that as y equals x minus 5. Okay, last example for the video. So we know that our line is going to pass through the following point, and it's perpendicular to the equation. So remember, when our slope is perpendicular to another line, that means that our slope is going to be the opposite reciprocal of that line's slope. So let's first start by solving for the slope of this equation. So I've got 3x minus 2y equals 30. And I'm going to go ahead and solve for y. So I'll start by subtracting 3x from both sides. So that's going to give me negative 2y equals negative 3x plus 30. Now I'm going to divide my coefficient of negative 2. That's going to give me y equals negative 3 over negative 2x minus 15. And I'm going to simplify my fraction. So that gives me y equals 3/2 x minus 15. So the slope of my original equation here is 3/2. But I know that my slope has to be perpendicular to that, so the opposite reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 3/2 is 2/3, and the opposite would make that negative. Okay, so at this point, I have my slope and I have my point. So I can use either of the two methods on the other page, but I'm going to go ahead and use the slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to substitute my point as x and y. So that gives me 0 equals negative 3 halves times negative 6 plus b. Okay, negative 3 halves times negative 6 is going to give me 4. So get 0 equals 4 plus b. Subtract 4 from both sides. That's going to give me negative 4 equals b. So now I've got my y-intercept and I've got my slope. So now I'm going to go back to my slope-intercept form, substitute in these values to make my equation. So this is going to give me y equals negative 2/3 x minus 4. And that's going to be my final answer. So once again, go through those examples on the right, write them down and give them a try, and come to class with any questions. Obviously, each of these examples are a little different than the last, so give it your best shot. All right, thanks for watching.